Woo! Well, a great way to start the episode by me just shouting "woo" for our like. I know I said I wasn't that drunk. I don't think I am very drunk. But hello everyone, welcome to the Arseholics podcast. It's Raj. I've had a couple of drinks. Genuinely, I'm less drunk than the intro has made out. But we've got Mice and we've got Aaron in here. Hello, boys. You all right?
Good,
yeah,
man.
good. Clearly not doing as well as you, but
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up. But
good.
That is like, can we just talk about that glass? What's in that glass? That's
it's a brandy. It was basically I started pouring and I was like, there's a little bit left in the bottle. Might as well finish it. And obviously overestimated the size of the glass and my capacity to actually be able to finish this. So
have you had anything before this glass?
No.
Okay.
No. First time I sat down all day. It's been a stressful day, mate.
You can deserve your drinking. We're going to get in some really interesting shit now, aren't we? Like this is a very different episode. So for those of you who don't know, we're doing our World Cup preview today. Bit random, bit different. It's not really Arsenal related. But you know, it is the day before the World Cup. That's mad, isn't it, Aaron?
It is. Are you looking forward to it?
I don't know. Like, I'm hoping this episode gets me into it. It's it still feels like it's sort of come out of nowhere. And I'm still a bit, as an Arsenal fan doing so well, I kind of miss the fact that I'm not going to get to see Arsenal play. And I think for me, the main thing this tournament is that no one gets bloody injured. That's at the end of the day.
No Arsenal.
Sorry,
players,
no Arsenal players. I think, yeah, sorry. I've got like this massive morality flex going on.
Yeah.
No, it's no. I just really, just make sure that none of our boys get injured because quite a few of them are at the World Cup now, and it's such a it's like Sod's Law, right? The first time for a World Cup to be in the middle of a season, to be the season that we're actually like running things. I mean, like, what are the chances? But I'm really hoping that this little World Cup preview that we do actually just sort of gets me going because I hadn't really thought about it too much and who I think are the favorites and who I think are the who I think is not going to do well. I hadn't thought about it that much before I prepared for this episode. But Miles, it feels like you're generally, out of all of us, the one who's more into international football generally. Like, I think that's a fair statement to make.
That's probably pretty fair. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that, every England game that comes around, friendlies, qualifiers, I'm kind of all over it because I'm not, to be honest. Like I follow it, I'll watch the games, but it's not like the same as how I follow Arsenal, basically. But when it comes to tournaments, I do get into it. I get caught up in the hype. I get the England shirt, all the rest of it, and I do support the country. And I mean, it's interesting because normally, it's kind of what everyone else has been saying, right? Normally when there's a tournament in the summer, you get the closure of the season, Champions League final, or playoff final, whatever the last game is, season's closed, you have a break. There's a really good build up to the tournament in terms of, what the squad's going to look like, who's injured. They'll probably England play a couple of friendlies, everyone play a couple of friendlies. You kind of get to size up how other teams are doing, all of that kind of stuff. And obviously it's in the summer. So you just get that natural excitement as you're going into the summer. And obviously we haven't got any of that. And it is really, really weird. Like, you guys are saying you're not really up for it or that excitement hasn't really hit you yet. And it's exactly the same for me. Like, it does feel weird that the World Cup's starting tomorrow. It's just really, really strange. Obviously the whole, who's hosting it and what's gone on there and all the kind of controversy with that, it does make it, it does make it quite difficult, to be honest, to that probably contributes a lot to the reason why I'm not as excited as I normally would. But I'm sure that kind of after the first game, and the first game is not, I don't know what to expect from Qatar and Ecuador, but I guess as the tournament really kicks in on Monday, three or four games on Monday, I think, and then it's like 4 games a day, and it's just like a festival of football. That's the thing I absolutely love. It's just you literally wake up. Okay, in this case anyway, because of the time difference, you pretty much wake up. I'm going to be logging into work and have my TV on in the background all day because there's pretty much a game, from 10 o'clock all the way to the evening, and that's the bit I love. Just the fact that there's just so much football to consume. And I think the other really good thing about this World Cup, but thinking about it, as you said, Raj, leading up to this episode and thinking about kind of how I expect teams to do, I think it's quite an open World Cup. I'm sure we're going to talk about who we think are going to win it and our favourites, and I think there are a couple of strong favourites. But I think it's actually quite an open World Cup, and I guess there is just massive uncertainty or unknown because it's in the middle of a season. You just don't know like how the favourites are going to perform. You don't know how England are going to do. It might just come down to the team that are the freshest. It might just come down to the team that I don't know, like have the most kind of continuity taken from how players are playing for their clubs. So yeah, it's just really, really odd, to be honest, overall. But I'm excited, but not as excited as I would be for a summer tournament. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, I think you've broke it down pretty well. I mean, Aaron, and like you are generally speaking politically left of the left. I describe you as, you're like the Brown Corbyn. Mate. You're the Brown Corbyn. You're the Brown Corbyn. I mean, I'm talking a relative scale. I mean, let's say we put the Arseaholics in a batch, and Nero's not right here right now. So let's just call him the Trump on the right. Although, there's based on nothing. But my point is, the reason why I set you up in that way, right, is there's lots of stuff that's intertwined, right, in terms of there's all the kind of morality and ethics stuff, but there's also this thing, the fact that it's in like the middle of the season. It's kind of hard to figure out sometimes, I think, what is the core reason as to why it feels a bit weird, right? But from your perspective, for example, right, if this World Cup in Qatar was at the end of the season, and if it was like as in the normal time a normal World Cup is, do you think there'd be do you think there'd be more kind of eagerness and kind of more anticipation around it, and like, regardless of all that other stuff?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I have no issue with it being in November. Like, it's not ideal. You'd love it to be in the summer, but look, a lot of the world is very hot in July, right? So does that mean like half of these countries in Africa and parts of the US, and plenty of World Cup in the US in 4 years, and that's going to be ridiculously hot in some parts of the US. So I don't have any issue with moving it to November. Like, if it's the World Cup, like, football can stop for 4 weeks, that's okay, right? It's more just FIFA, how it was won. I've been watching that Netflix documentary on FIFA, and all the corruption that comes with that. And then, how it, I think it's more the geopolitical issues of, human rights.
Look at big words like geopolitical. Look at him.
Yeah, the geopolitical issues of like the human rights, and then more FIFA. I think FIFA have like done well to like hide themselves from this, but in my opinion, they're far, far worse than Qatar.
Well, statement made.
Yeah.
Jeez. I mean, I guess it's funny. The Netflix documentary has kind of come at a very interesting time, and it feels like everyone is, if they weren't aware of all the kind of FIFA allegations, etc., they are now. All that stuff to say, just what we're going to do on this podcast today is we are going to just try and really get into the football of it, right? And we're gonna talk through our predictions on who we think is going to be who's going to come out winners, who's going to be rubbish, who are going to be breakthrough players. We're going to have a few questions that we're going to answer. But just before we get into all of that, right? And I know we've touched on some of the reasons why people aren't necessarily as up for it as normal, etc. Let's just talk about the Arsenal lens slightly. So, it is a bit of a random time and whatever, but, Arsenal flying at the top of the league, 5 points clear. Do you think Arteta is going to be happy about the fact that this World Cup has kind of come now versus, say, how happy a Pep or, any of the other rival managers would be? What do you think the difference is, Miles, with how they're all feeling?
I think if you're Pep, I think you're probably quite concerned, to be honest, because... as the comment from Shani's just mentioned, obviously I know Haaland's not going, or hasn't gone, obviously, Norway haven't qualified, but I think they've got like 16 call-ups. So it's basically their entire first team aside from Haaland and probably quite a few of their other important players. So I think you're probably a little bit more comfortable. Look, if you look at it like this, right? If you're Arteta, you're 5 points clear. I think we've got, is it 8 players that have travelled? I actually don't know. 6, 8, something like that.
Feels light. Is it only that much? I know we did
so.
say before that it wasn't that many, but should we reel them off if we can right now? So England's got Ramsdale, White, Saka.
Yeah.
Then Partey's gone.
Yep.
Yeah. Then Brazil, Jesus, and Martinelli.
Yep.
Then Granit Xhaka's gone.
Matt Turner.
Sorry?
Matt Turner.
Turner's gone. Tomiyasu's gone.
Okay.
But outside from that, who's gone? Has anyone else gone? I don't know if anyone else gone.
Odegaard didn't go. Gabriel didn't.
No.
Saliba.
Saliba, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Obviously Zinchenko didn't go.
Yeah, Vieira didn't go.
Was it 8, 9, or 10?
10
I mean,
we got
okay,
10.
it's still a pretty big number, and I guess of those, I'm not sure how many. There's a few of them that probably won't get any minutes, or if maybe very minimal. So I think if you're Arteta, I mean, look, it hasn't come at the best time because we're on such amazing form, right? Or we've been in such amazing form. We've been on this fantastic run. But I think if you're Pep, you're probably slightly sweating because you're probably thinking, I've got to come back in Jan, potentially with a bit more of a depleted squad. If, out of those 16 players, I can't imagine all of them are going to come back fit. There's probably going to be one or two that might need a bit more time or might pick up an injury. Who knows? And ultimately, Arteta's probably looking at the table, looking at our position and thinking we're in a pretty strong position. So, at the end of the day, mate, it comes down to a bit of luck as well, right? Like, who knows? Literally, Jesus could come on for 20 minutes in a game and get injured. It could happen to anyone, right? So it is what it is. It's a bit of a wild card in terms of never happened before in a season, and just no one knows what to expect. I guess the other, this applies to everyone, I guess, right? But the fact that we've got a window to do something if we need to. Everyone comes back 26. Well, first game back 26th of December. We then, we can assess everyone when they come back towards, basically around Christmas time, and it gives us the opportunity to really assess what we need to do in the transfer window. I know you guys were talking about it on the last episode, and that was really interesting. But injuries in the World Cup could play a massive factor in what our transfer strategy or policy or decisions are in January. And I guess the same for City and everyone else as well, right? But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where we talked about it right at the start of the season. Everyone knew what was coming, so it's just one of those things that you've just got to see how it plays out. Hope for the best. Hopefully, nothing really, really bad happens to anyone, and see where we are when they come back in 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it is. And I guess with some of our players, you look at kind of Tomiyasu, for example. Look at their group. I don't think Japan are. I mean, they're not. If you're looking at the odds, they're not going to get out of their group. So he might be 3 games and back home kind of thing. So there's that as well to look at. There'll probably be a few players that won't play that much and a few players that hopefully will be back pretty soon. I say hopefully, but you know what I mean. So just got to see how it goes, man.
On that note, Miles, whilst we were just having that discussion on Arsenal players, I remember there was a guy on Twitter. There's always a guy on Twitter, or person on Twitter, I guess. Could be a girl. And they analysed, like, out of the top 5, 6 teams, who are going to have the most number of guaranteed starters that goes furthest into the World Cup and who has the least. So obviously Newcastle by far have the least. I think they've only got Trippier, who's likely to start in a team that's likely to go far. We've got 4, although Ben White wasn't included in that list in terms of starting and likely to go far. So you could argue if Ben White plays for England, that's 5. So we've got Turner, Partey, Saka, Jesus, and then White and Ramsdale, who may or may not play regularly. But Man City, they've got 11. So Chelsea have got 9, Liverpool 6, Tottenham 7.
Oh, wow. So
in terms, like, obviously this is like if Tomiyasu and Japan get to the final, that might be, it might skew the numbers a bit or whatever. Or Xhaka, they might go far. But it's okay. I think you're right. Injuries could screw us. Like Jesus is the one that really worries me. Like Martinelli might play, might not. You don't know. But it's not. I feel like we're less exposed than someone like Man City. They've got Walker, they've got Stones, Diaz, Laporte, Ake, Cancelo, Rodri, Phillips, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Silva, Foden, Grealish, all who could play and go far. Now it's all subjective, but it could be worse, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
could
and
be
even
us, yeah.
and a couple of those players you mentioned, I don't think Ramsdale. I mean, I think Pope's second choice, so it will take an absolute disaster for Ramsdale to get a game. Personally, I don't think
Yeah.
Southgate will go for him, and I think Ben White as well. I don't think he's going to get. I don't think he played any minutes in the Euros. He didn't play any minutes from memory. I think it'd be the same kind of thing. You know, I think he just about scraped into the squad, and that's obviously a separate debate as to whether he should have just made it based on merit. But yeah. I mean, that's really interesting. I think that kind of backs up.
Yeah, I mean, like they put Turner on this list, but do we really care if Turner plays 5
No.
games at the World Cup? Probably not, right?
No.
It's probably good for him, if anything.
Probably good for him, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting tournament. The ones we really worry about: Partey, Saka, Jesus, the 3 that probably start quite regularly. And
do they though?
Might
like,
go-
do all
I
of
don't-
those?
yeah,
How much do they do?
Well, Partey definitely does.
Partey
Saka,
does.
you would assume he would. Jesus, yeah, I mean, Brazil have got so many good players. You don't know; they could rotate quite easily.
I don't think he starts. I think they go Richarlison, Neymar, and either
Vinicius.
Rafinha or Vinicius.
Yeah.
I forgot about him, Vinicius, and then I was going to say Rafinha or Anthony, but no, yeah, Vinicius starts obviously. So they've just got so much attacking wealth, haven't they? So
yeah, it's like Saka as well. I think we do assume that he's going to start, right? Because like Southgate does like him, but as we've sort of seen in I think the Euros, it was hard to predict what he was going to do until the very start of the tournament. I don't think anyone predicted Calvin Phillips, for example, was going to be a starter in the Euro. So Southgate could bring us a surprise. Don't know. But okay, guys, let's get into the meat of this. Let's have some fun. So we have been doing live episodes for a little while now, but we are also going to do something new today. We're going to try and share a slide
with
Yeah, and
animations.
I know
Sound
that
like a man who's
sounds
just
it
discovered
sounds
PowerPoint in 1995.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to say like I'm somewhat of a PowerPoint connoisseur.
Don't cock it up, Raj. That's all I'm going to say, mate.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of pressure of saying that. So let's see if this works. What we've done, so that everyone is teed up. So we've got some predictions that we've all done. Nero has also done some predictions, and he's in New York at the moment, so he can't join us. I mean, that's not the reason why he can't join us. He never joined us, does he? But anyway, he's in New York, and but he provided his predictions. So we have them as well as a fourth set of predictions, and let's run through them now. Come on, please work. Here we go. Bang. Okay. So hopefully everyone sees a bit of a grid here with some very handsome guys at the top. Oh, really handsome guys, actually.
And you're on there too.
It's a bit of a... yeah, okay, mate. Okay.
I like that.
This is do you guys remember where this was all from the same picture? Do you remember when that was? Do you remember the
that
game?
was Brighton.
Oh,
it was the first game back
COVID.
after COVID. Yeah. Is that right?
Maybe I couldn't remember. That wasn't I didn't know the answer. That's what I was asking.
It was in the
it
was in the Horatia, and we ordered some sort of chicken. I remember.
Fucking hell, you actually even know what we ordered. Well done.
Because I was amazed that the pub allowed us to order food. Like for me, that's like not a normal thing.
I mean, you look so happy in the picture, so obviously you're really happy about it.
Nero was there, mate. I was just happy.
Yeah, fair enough. So look, as you can see, everyone, we have got 6 questions that we're going to go through today. We're gonna first go through who we think are going to be the champions. We're going to then say who we think is going to win the coveted Golden Boot. There's going to be surprise package. So who has been surprisingly good in terms of which team has been surprisingly good. Thanks for coming. It's a little bit of a cricket phrase there, TFC. So who might as well have just bloody stayed at home because they were so rubbish. And he's been pants. So which player has been pants, and who wasn't expected to be pants? So who's been the surprising pants person? And baller alert is who the breakthrough player is, like who is the one that all of a sudden perhaps is on the global radar that wasn't previously. And I was trying to think about who this was, who has this been in previous seasons, because it's not always a young player. You know, it's not necessarily always a young player. It could just be a player who plays for someone like Iran that no one ever really paid attention to, that has a semi-decent tournament. So it'll be interesting to see what everyone says. I know what everyone has said, but the other guys don't know what everyone else has said.
Yep.
So before I get onto the champions point, anything you guys want to say before we get into the meat of this?
No.
Not really, to be honest. I'm happy to get straight into it.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's put up who we all said we thought we were gonna we're gonna be champions. Here we go. Well,
okay.
Well, not a huge amount of disparity, but there are two teams that we should talk about. Myers, why don't you kick it off? Represent yourself and Nero here, talking about Argentina. Why do you think Argentina are going to be champions?
I think. Okay, so there's a few reasons. I think when you look through their side, well, first of all, they're on this ridiculous. Well, I say ridiculous. I think it's pretty ridiculous. Unbeaten run of, I think it's 36 games. Mm-hmm. They haven't lost, and I think if they get through a certain portion of the tournament unbeaten, I think a couple of games or a few games, then they break like the all-time record. Anyway, look, not saying that necessarily means they're going to win the World Cup, but obviously means they were coming into it in very, very good form. So that was one of the reasons why I picked them. The other reason was when you look through their side, there's quite a lot that in terms of their squad and who they're likely to start, there's quite a lot that I like about them. Especially so central midfield is quite interesting because they've got obviously Bentancur, who annoyingly actually really, really rate, and I think he's actually done well, really, really well this season. And he seems to have been a big part of why Spurs seem to have come back in games. I know he's scored quite a few late goals, and I think he scored the winner the other day. But I think when you watch him, when he kind of has his leashes removed by Conte when Spurs need a goal, he's actually a really good attacking midfielder, and he's actually really good in the box. And him and Valverde in central midfield, Valverde at Real Madrid looks like a really, really good player. So quite excited, or I'm not excited, but I think I basically rate both of them in central midfield. And obviously going forward, Argentina have always had like serious firepower going forward. Obviously Messi, Martinez, Di Maria. They've got quite a few options. And I think, like I said, I just think they look very, very strong throughout the team. And I think a big part of me picked Argentina just purely because of Messi. I think that I'd obviously want England to win it. But if England don't win it, then kind of up there as a very, very, very close second in terms of what I'd want to happen this World Cup would probably be Messi to finally win a World Cup. And it's just that kind of, romantic, like football romance side of me that just wants that to happen. Like Maradona won one for Argentina. It just feels like it would be right. It'd probably be his last World Cup. And it just feels like it'd be right, and it would just kind of cement what I know there's a debate about him and Ronaldo and whatever, but for me, I'm a Messi guy. I prefer Messi, and I think it would just cement his kind of legacy and his kind of greatness, and just be very, very fitting for him to win it. And it would just be really, really nice to see, basically. So yeah, that's one of the big reasons. But I like that. I do think they have a very, very good team as well.
So I don't know so much about how they play necessarily, and how they've been doing to the build up of this tournament. But is some of this fueled by what you want rather than what you believe will happen, or do you? Because that if we think about who the other like bookies' favorites are for this tournament, you got Brazil, you got France, you got England, whatever. Like, is it the Messi factor, and is it that the is it the quality of Messi that is set as apart, or is it the fact that you actually you have that kind of like you said, it's more of a you'd love it to happen because of the romanticism of it.
It's a bit of both. And to be honest, there was a part of me that didn't want to just go with Brazil, to be honest. Like everyone, I know both of you guys have gone for Brazil, and fair enough, like you can't argue with that. But I feel like Brazil, they go into every World Cup as the favourites, pretty much. They're expected to win the World Cup. They're at least expected to kind of get to the final. Anything less than that is probably considered failure for if you're a Brazilian, or if you support Brazil. So I kind of wanted to be a little bit different as well. But look, if you say to me, I think Brazil are going to win the World Cup, which is obviously what you think, I couldn't really argue with that, because based on the quality of their squad as well, you look at that and you just think they are very, very strong all over. But yeah, there's definitely a big part of me that's just, I would genuinely love to see Messi win it. Like that would be, if England can win it, amazing, obviously. And if they can't, then I think next choice for me would be for Messi to win it. Sorry, and for him to win it for Argentina. And I think they've actually got not a bad route to the final. I think if everything goes to plan, they'd probably play Brazil in the semis. But I think the first knockout round they play, assuming they win their group, which they should, because they've got a fairly. This is the other thing. I think they've got a pretty good group. Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Poland. So they should really top that group. Should put themselves into a positive position in terms of form. And then I think they'd obviously play who's second in the France group. And if it's not France, it's probably Denmark, who are a tough team, to be fair. But you probably back Argentina, and then it's a lottery of quarterfinals and semi-finals. So who knows? But yeah,
fair enough. Aaron, Brazil. Why do you think Brazil are going to win it over Argentina?
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I think for me, you look at the amount of attacking talent Brazil have, probably just about edges Argentina, but I think Brazil have a better defense than Argentina. I think with they've got obviously Casemiro, what's his name, Marquinhos. Is it Militao? Militao, I'm making that up. Who also starts?
He's awful. He's either Real Madrid. He's a Real Madrid. Is it? No.
Yeah.
There's a guy that's from Real Madrid. He's awful. I think it's him. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and I think they look like they've got they look like they're cooking nicely for this tournament. And I think they've come, obviously Argentina beat Brazil in the Copa America final, didn't they? And then that was Messi's moment, and that was great for him. And I think Messi is obviously very good, and I think Messi will, if Argentina are going to have to win, Messi will have to do something very, very special. But I think all around, Brazil have got better goal scorers and can do more. They've got Neymar, they've got Jesus, they've got Paqueta, they've got Rafinha, they've got Anthony, they've got it's just ridiculous. And then Martinelli, one of our best players, can barely get a look in. Just about made that squad.
But they can only play 3-4 of them.
3-4 of them. Yeah, probably play 4 of that lot. And I think you look at. I just think overall they're probably a better defensive unit. I think Argentina probably start Emi Martinez still, right? Who's obviously good, but then you've got Brazil, you've got Edison and Alisson. I think
it's true.
Man for man,
yeah,
they just look like a better setup. And I think overall, if Brazil want to shut out a game, they can. Argentina, I still think might be a little bit more suspect at the back, and I think therefore, if they play each other in the semis, like you say, Myers, I mean, it's going to be a mental game if it happens. But I think Brazil will just edge it. The only thing stopping Brazil, I think, is the pressure, because
exactly.
They're favourites. Everyone's putting a lot of pressure on people like Neymar, for example, to come good. I work with a lot of actually Brazilians and Argentinians, and the World Cup for them is another thing. It is religion. It is their we take it seriously, but for them, they still every day talk about the Germany game like a
7-1,
7-1, like a humiliation
every day. Wow, that must be
it's it's trauma for them, right?
How's that how it work? Every day?
Every day, yeah. So it's, and I think the pressure of that could get to them, especially if they're favorites. And this team, they haven't really tasted that much success, right? This is, they're burdened by the pressure of the old Ronaldo era, the Ronaldinho era, that team. And this is as good as Brazil have been for a long, long time, right? And I wonder if the pressure will get to them.
That's fair. The only things I would add to that as to reasons why, I've gone for Brazil. I do think that Argentina and Brazil, I feel like it was going to be someone from South America. Like the only reason that I didn't go for France, the reason why like I probably pipped France with Brazil is because of the climate. To be honest, like I think they'll handle the climate better. Firstly, but then in terms of Brazil versus Argentina, yeah, look, I think they're less reliant on one person, to be honest. Like I think there's a lot of quality everywhere. It feels like even with Neymar, right? I mean, he's probably their main player, but it feels like he plays as a false nine for them. So they're less reliant necessarily on him coming up with the goods. And if he doesn't, let's just say he's off form or if he gets injured, well, Gabriel Jesus is playing an incredible kind of season in a not a false nine role, but in a nine role that is doing a lot of hard work to bring other players in. And I think it feels like Brazil like rely a lot on their wide players. So it feels like they've got everything in place. You know, for me, like I know, like Miles, you made a good point. They go in every season as favorites, but every World Cup as favorites, more or less. But it does often feel like in those World Cups, there are another bunch of teams that you can also say, oh, like they're like really, really intense. And I think the only other team for me, apart from Argentina, was France, which I really felt like had a squad. I think France and Brazil's squad are both, probably one level above everyone else's. But I think the climate, etc. I think that'll play a part. The other interesting thing, right, is Miles, you mentioned about like Messi, the Messi factor last World Cup. It could be Neymar's last World Cup. Like it could be. He's 30, so he'll be 34 the next
now.
World Cup. Yeah,
I didn't realize he's 30. Okay,
maybe, yeah,
34. Like I mean, yeah. Like, look, you probably bank on him making the next squad, but 34, and with a lot of the young talent that Brazil have, like, don't know, like, is this like the World Cup where he has to where he shines? Really,
yeah.
like, so I think there's a little bit of that.
Just to address the point that came up from Knick-Knack. So it's a fair point. Forward line is great, and I well, not really addressing the point, but I mean, Aaron, and you were talking about how solid Brazil look at the back, and I think, to be fair, like I think Martinez, as in goalkeeper Martinez for Argentina, I think he's actually been really, really good for them. I know he can be a bit iffy for Villa, but also they've got the short Martinez and Christian Romero at the back. I think that's probably
I was reading that apparently Otamendi starts over him.
Otamendi, yeah,
quite
I think
surprising because I don't know how old Otamendi is nowadays, but
and obviously Otamendi is just like a very kind of not risky, but the way he plays and his aggression, and everything, and it could cost them. But potentially they've got a decent centre back pairing there. But I agree. Look, I think if you're looking at on paper, Brazil probably do have overall a better squad. And like I said, their firepower going forward is ridiculous. Like they literally have 3 or 4 world-class players that won't start in terms of going forward and their attacking players. So like I said, I can't disagree that, when someone says Brazil are going to win the World Cup, can't disagree with it. But there's definitely a part of me that I really do want to see like Messi lift it, to be honest. I think it would just be very, very just fitting really. Best player in the world, win the World Cup.
Fair play. Let's go on to Golden Boot, because some of this might be linked to our champion predictions. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Bang. Okay, cool. Well, all 3 of us on the pod here have named different names. Aaron, let's go to you first, mate. So you went Brazil to win, but you've gone Messi to win the Golden Boot. That's fair enough. But talk me through that. Why do you think Messi?
So I think Argentina have the easier group. They've got Saudi Arabia. That could be 6-0, 7-0. I reckon that's probably why. So Myers went Martinez for Argentina. I reckon it's probably similar. I did think about that. But again, maybe this is for more sentimental reasons. I can see like Messi just turning on. He looked like he was, I haven't watched a lot of PSG this season, but it looked like they've been coming into some form, and that, Messi looks like he's been playing, but not back to his best, but a much higher level of football than he was last season, for example. So yeah, maybe it's sentimental, but I think I'm assuming Messi on penalties as well. So I reckon he'll probably just get a few there. Argentina with Di Maria probably, draw out some fouls. I'll get a few penalties, and Messi will take them all. Messi will be on set pieces. But for very similar reasons, it could be Martinez. If I wasn't going Messi, I'd go Martinez.
It's interesting because it's like the same logic that you applied. It's the logic that I applied for Neymar. So, because I think for Brazil, he takes a free kick. So I'm pretty sure he takes penalties. It's like a very, very similar logic. Like, and that's really the only reason I've got because I was debating it a little bit because again, I don't think he plays as a out and out kind of striker. He plays as more of a false nine, seemingly for them. But it's for a very similar logic. There wasn't any of the wide players that I thought was, definitely was going to be one of them. But I mean, Myers, you went for Lautaro Martinez. It's interesting because you don't in England, people don't talk about him that much. I know he doesn't play in the Premier League. That's probably part of the reason, but he doesn't come up in conversation that much, does he? No. When you hear about people talking about top players in Europe, I mean, so why did you go for him?
I mean, every time I've seen him play, obviously, look, I don't watch Serie A or anything, but every time you see him playing in the Champions League, I don't know. He's just, I feel like I think I just really, really rate him. To be honest, I feel like he's a good finisher. He's a very exciting player to watch. And his goal record is pretty good. Like I was having a look at it earlier in the week, and I think he's scored 7 goals so far this season in about 15 games for Inter. So he's scoring at 1 and 2, and same for Argentina. I think he's got 21 in 40 games, 40 caps for Argentina. So I feel like he's a player that should get goals in exactly the same kind of rationale that Aaron gave. They have a relatively straightforward group, and there's opportunity there for Argentina to really bag some goals. And the only thing is exactly again what Aaron said, like he doesn't take penalties, Messi takes the penalties. So if they do get a few penalties, then Messi's gonna kind of notch a few goals basically. So and to be honest, like even if you look at the last World Cup, it was Harry Kane that won it, and he scored I think 3 penalties in the tournament. So it normally is, and I think before that was probably like Miroslav Klose previous years. So normally I think it's the guys that do take the penalties that tend to get the golden boot or get close. So, but yeah, again, I wanted to go for someone a little bit different, to be honest. And yeah, I feel like Argentina could really bag some goals in the group stage, and he could be one of those players that helps them do that. So that was one of the main reasons. And obviously, I backed them to win it. So, wanted to go for an Argentinian to get the golden boot as well.
So, is there anyone outside of the names that we've mentioned there that were close on your list as kind of, because we've gone very Champions Golden Boot, we're very Argentina Brazil heavy. Is there anyone outside of that circle that either of you thought could do it?
I was tempted to consider Mbappe, but then I don't trust France this year. They've got injuries, and I just think to retain it would be like a big ask.
So sorry, go on, mate.
There's no one else that really came into my head. I think it's going to be I think it'll be either an Argentinian or Brazilian, unless someone random just thumps. There's another 8-0 or something like that, and someone gets 7 goals in one game or something silly like that.
Right, yeah.
If you're talking about consistent goal scorers, I reckon it'll be a penalty taker, and I reckon it will probably be from one of those teams.
So I initially went Darwin Núñez, Raj, as you know, and then I changed it to Martinez. But I kind of had another look at the groups or the teams that Uruguay have got to play, and Uruguay have actually got a really weird group. And I think Uruguay are a team that could either absolutely smash it or go out with 3 losses. But yeah, I obviously he's done. I think he's done pretty well for Liverpool. He's been scoring goals. Excuse me. And I think if depending on how that group goes, he might end up again bagging a few. They've got South Korea in their group, and I don't think that's necessarily an easy game. But again, it could be a game where there's quite a few goals. But he was the only. There's obviously the usual contenders. Yeah, Mbappe, even Benzema, who I think maybe he's not quite fit, but there's obviously a number of kind of what you might call world-class strikers or top quality strikers that potentially could bag a lot of goals. But he was one again. I was looking for someone a little bit different. But yeah, he was the only other one that he was my original pick, and then I changed it back to Martinez.
Fair play. I have to apologize, because in the passion of this novelty, I suppose, of having this slide up, I have forgotten that there are some people who will be listening audio only and won't get to see the slide. So apologies if I wasn't clear on who everyone's nominated thus far, but I will. I'll do better in the next question. The next question, surprise package. So I think the next 4 questions, it will get a little bit more interesting. And I know that because I know what the answers are. And I think there's a little bit more disparity. So I'm going to go for the surprise package. So to be clear, this is who we all think is going to be a team that will punch above their weight in this tournament. Here we go. Right. So Miser said Netherlands. Aaron had said Senegal. I have said Canada. And Nero has said South Korea. Now,
wow, okay.
Yeah, very different. Very, very, very different. Maybe I'll go first this time. I mean, Nero is not here to talk about South Korea. I don't know why he thinks South Korea. But I'm sure he had his reasons. Maybe really like Son. Maybe. But you could probably argue the same for me. Why would I have gone for Canada? Like, I think so. When I was trying to answer this question, I was also thinking, like, what does surprise package even really mean? Like, so is it a case where, like, obviously different? It's like Mize, you've gone for Netherlands, but at the end of the day, if Netherlands get knocked out in the quarterfinals, that isn't going to be that impressive for them, but it would be impressive for Canada, for example.
I kind of pushed it with Netherlands, to be honest, because I wasn't sure if they could be considered as a surprise package.
No,
I guess it depends. It depends on how far they go.
Oh yeah, we'll allow that.
Because I mean, when I say Canada, right, like I don't think that Canada are going to go that far, but I think that Canada are probably in the same kind of bracket as many of the lowest sort of teams there. I think in the rankings, they're very, very, very low. There is a lot of teams that have not made this World Cup that rank above Canada. But Canada do have 2 very good players in their team. They've got Jonathan David and they've got Alphonso Davies, who are like 2 genuinely good, top European Champions League level footballers. And then they've got a bunch of other kind of, let's just say, journeyman types who, I don't know, they almost remind me of Wales a little bit. No offense to Wales, but like, with those other players, it's like, like how Wales have had like Bale and Ramsey and then like everyone else. Like, it's like, it's kind of like that. But then when I looked at their like group, I can't remember all the teams in their group, but I want to say that Croatia are in there. I can't remember the other teams, but like basically it seemed to be, I think Canada could manage to finish second in that group.
Croatia, Morocco, Belgium, I think.
Ahead of who are you going that out of Croatia? Well, out of those 3 teams, who's not making it?
Well, I think Belgium. It's a bit funny. Like I don't. Belgium are a bit weird at the moment, but I think there's a chance that Belgium or Croatia like have a bit of a poor tournament. Like either of those teams just could. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, I think I can see that actually. Yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
I think we're going to come on to that, aren't we, Rog?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a chance of that. So I think Canada could then. Canada don't normally qualify for the World Cup yet, so even the fact that they're here is like a decent deal. And if they could qualify out the group, I think that'd be really impressive for them just to be getting the knockouts. And then in the knockouts, you don't really know, like they could just shut up shop and play a counter-attacking type of football, and their 2 very good players are pace merchants. They're both just like rapid players.
What's the name of the Leeds guy? Is it Aronson? Is it Aronson?
He's American, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, he's American.
Is he American?
Yeah.
So yeah, Canada, I think it's really just those 2 guys. And like,
okay, right. I was trying to think
of a bunch of other people.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no. I don't think so. So that's why I went for them as a surprise. Miles, do you want to go? Why'd you say Netherlands?
I think they've actually got a pretty decent spine. If you think of Van Dijk, De Ligt, and then Memphis Depay is the kind of player that I don't know what's going on with him at the moment at Barcelona. I think he's just not really getting a look in, but he's the kind of player that if he really wants to turn it on, I've always quite liked Depay. I know he flopped at United, but he's the I think he's that good, but on his day that He can kind of win a game, and I feel like no one's really talking about them as well. But this is what I say. This is what why I said maybe it's pushing it a little bit with them, because they're not anywhere near the favourites, but at the same time, they're probably in that second kind of tranche of teams that potentially might do quite well. And yeah, I think if things potentially go quite well for them, then they could do quite well. And look, they've got arguably, I know Van Dijk's been kind of out of form this season, maybe, but so have a lot of Liverpool players. But they've arguably got who was the best defender in the world not that long ago. And if they have a pretty solid defense, then they might be able to do quite well. And I think it's Van Gaal who's their manager, right? So, experienced coach as well. So yeah, I kind of plump for them. I think, like I said right at the start, right, it's just a World Cup where I feel like it's just so many, not unknowns, but just like it's just such a weird scenario. A first time we're seeing a World Cup like this. It's just that you could probably pick one of, as we've all picked 4 different teams, right? So it could be one of those World Cups where a team you just really don't expect to do well does actually do well. And look, to be honest, they've got a good group as well, right? They're in the group with Qatar. They should get out of that group pretty easily. So yeah, I went for Holland.
But when you say surprise pack, so where do you? Because obviously, if they got out the group, you wouldn't be like, "Wow, that's a surprise." What? So you're saying surprise package? Do you think they could go quite far?
Quarters or semis? Because I think if they win their group, they probably play Iran. Well, okay, assuming England we win our group as well. Iran, USA, or Wales. You'd back them to beat whoever they play out of those 3 teams, and then again, it's the lottery of a quarterfinals knockout football. Who knows? So, if they get to the semi, even if they get to the quarters, that's probably a relatively good tournament for them. I think in the Euros they got knocked out straight after the groups. I think they qualified from their group and then got knocked out, if memory serves me right.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I mean, look, if they should get out of their group. I know one of you guys is back. Who's back? Senegal. Oh, near. You. So they're both in the same groups. That's quite interesting, actually.
Aaron, talk to us about Senegal.
I thought. So I think, look, so the big one is obviously they've lost Mane, right? And that is a huge loss, because if you had asked me about 3-4 weeks ago, I would have thought Mane could have been like the player of the tournament for this year. But I think they won the AFCON, and I think just reading a bit about them in some of the World Cup previews is they've figured out how to like win a tournament, and they play a lot of like tournament football. And although Mane obviously is very, was quite key in that AFCON run and was quite key in their attack, they've still got some like pretty handy players. They've got Koulibaly, they've got Mendy, they've got Ismail Assar, they've got Gueye, they've got Dia, and a few other players I've never heard of. So, like, I just think they, just like reading about them, and I watched a little bit of AFCON last year, but nowhere near enough to like give you a qualified opinion. But they look like a team, and maybe this is stereotyping a bit, but when I see African teams previously at World Cup, they always look like a bunch of individuals genuinely like in it for themselves rather than playing as a team. You usually have like one person who's like good, and then everyone else is a bit rubbish. But with Senegal, I get the vibes that they're just a bit more coached, and they could be quite good. And their group again is not impossible, right? So it's Netherlands. God, Miles, help me out here because you just probably said it.
Who was it? The groups for Senegal, Ecuador,
A, right?
Qatar. Qatar, Ecuador.
Qatar, Ecuador. Yeah. So Qatar again. Qatar could be an interesting one. I was very tempted to actually go for Qatar, mainly because there's rumors that they just bribed the other teams to like get wins, and then Ecuador like are not very good. So yeah, I just think that Senegal will probably come out of their group.
Yeah.
Then if they, and again, the Netherlands are tricky, and on their day they could be good, but they could give them a game. And then if they get through that group, they win the group. They probably get someone out of England's group, and we'll come on to this in a minute. But then after that, there's there's a kind-ish run into the quarterfinals and later on. So let's see. I think it's just a real shame that Mane's not there. I think otherwise they'll be favourites to win that group, I think.
Yeah, fair.
Mate, I'm so interested to know why Nero said South Korea. That
Yeah.
is mental. When you look at their group as well,
Yeah.
Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay.
Yeah, it's a tough group,
I
isn't it?
wish he was on this right now to hear why he's picked them. Or he's just drunk and he just said the first country that isn't a
He's
a
probably
big,
an
big
undercover
football-
like closet.
I did say to him,
Korean song fan.
but I messaged I was like, look, just say whatever comes in your head. And
Ah.
so maybe that's why. But
Fair enough.
yeah. Right.
Nice.
Thanks for coming. Right. So to be clear, so this is who we think is just like might as well have stayed at home. Didn't live up to expectations. Boom.
Oh, he's just gone for England. Wow.
Yeah. So Mize has gone Belgium, Aaron has gone England, I have gone Uruguay, and Nero has gone England as well.
I thought I was rogue with that prediction. I'm very surprised. It's concerning when I have an opinion that is the same as Nero's.
Let's save England just for the end. Mize, do you want to go for Belgium? Tell us about Belgium.
I mean, I just feel like their time has come and gone in terms of everyone talks about this golden generation that they had, and I think they came third in. Did they come third in the last World Cup? I'm pretty sure they did. I think they beat England in the third and fourth place playoff. But regardless, I just feel like they've obviously got De Bruyne, who's an unreal player, and to be fair, if he does kind of almost play to his potential, which is not even the right term. It's just a case of if he steps up, then potentially the rest of them step up, and they do have Lukaku, who he could potentially just again similar to like what Argentina might do in the group stages. He could be a player that just bangs in loads of goals against some of the smaller teams. But I just think when it gets to the business end, I'm not really sure they're going to be able to cut it. I don't really rate Martinez as a manager. I've never really rated him. I think he should have done a bit better with the Belgium side that he's had, or the level of players and the quality of players that he's had, and the group of players that he's had for the last few years. And I think a lot of them are kind of coming to that end when you think of like, I don't even know who's in their squad, to be honest, but if Vertonghen and Alderweireld are still in their team or in their squad, they've got players like Dries Mertens who are really coming to the end of their careers. I'm not really sure that they're just going to do that well from that perspective. And I think Croatia in their group, Croatia are also quite similar, right? Where they've got a 36, 37-year-old Modric running their midfield. But Croatia always tend to do quite well in tournaments. And I could see them finishing second to Croatia, and then it becomes a lot harder because regardless, they play one of Spain or Germany in the first knockout round, and that's going to be difficult regardless of who they play. But I just think they're going to have a difficult tournament, and unless, from what I've understood on how they've been playing, it very much seems like the focus is get the ball to De Bruyne, get the ball to Lukaku from there, and then score goals. And obviously, and I think Lukaku's not even fit at the moment. I could be wrong on that, but I don't even think he's fit. And yeah, look, they have good players across the squad, but I just feel like they're kind of at the end of that phase of their players being in their peak. If you know what I mean. It's just coming to the end of that period. And my understanding is Roberto Martinez, he's not hanging around after the World Cup. I think this is the last tournament. So yeah, I've gone for Belgium.
Fair, like the good reasons. Belgium were probably going to be my second choice. I went for Uruguay because partly because of their group. I think it is a tough group. I don't particularly. I mean, is Suarez even in the Uruguay squad?
Yeah,
is he? He is.
Yeah, he'll probably start.
Yeah. So I mean, we this is when that era where they had Suarez and Suarez was at his peak, like where Uruguay were, I think, a pretty kind of serious underdog, but not anymore, man. Like I think even though Darwin Núñez, I think he's handy, and I think Uruguay, they've probably got the odd good player. If you look at the rest of the squads, I don't think they're quite up to it. And the reason why I put them as a thanks for coming is they've got a huge World Cup history, right? They've got massive pedigree. They've got they've got a fantastic history in the World Cup. So partly just because of the size of the nation, in terms of their history, is why I've gone for this. I think there's a chance they won't finish out their group as well.
Got a rematch against Ghana in that group.
Yeah,
exactly. I think that's the thing. I think Ghana. I mean, South Korea are like, no. I don't think that they're going to do awesome things, but I think there's a chance that Uruguay go out.
They do. Just while Raj is coughing, they do have two amazing central midfielders, because for some reason earlier I decided to say they were Argentinian, but they're not. Bentancur and Valverde. I don't know what I was talking about earlier. Obviously, the rum's gone to my head, but they do have.
Start talking about England, he'll be like, England got Bentancur and Valverde.
So you went about Argentina as champions and talked about their central midfield.
Obviously, it was just Messi. Mate. It's just Messi. It's Messi. That's it. That was the only reason.
So if someone is listening to our podcast for the first time, they've talked about neither of us corrected you.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. So it's a group thing, right? We fell together.
We just have so much faith in your opinion, mate, that we don't question it. But next time we'll have to fact check.
It was a one-off. Oh, mate, I'm so interested to hear on England.
Sorry, talk to us about England while I try and cough.
I
can't put myself on. I can't put myself on mute. That's the thing. Because of this,
I think I can mute you. Hang on.
Oh yeah, mute me.
Shall I mute you?
Okay. Yeah, he's not going to be able to unmute himself, is he?
He's muted now. No, I'll unmute him.
Okay, fine.
Raj, give me the thumbs up when you want to be unmuted.
Is going to be very interesting. So I thought about this, and I was like, out of all the big teams, who is the expectation on to perform, and who do I think will not perform? I think it probably will be England. I think. Okay, I don't know how outrageous. There is a chance that I think England could go out the group stage. So I think England's the way you look at the Nations League. England are rubbish in the Nations League. Now I know it's the Nations League, and I think
they got to the final the year before, didn't they?
They got to the final the year before. The last year they've not been playing well. Southgate hasn't been able to find that balance. I think he plays that back five, but actually the defenders he plays in that the defenders that he has available to him in that back five are not that great. Now we don't know who's going to play, but it will probably be, Maguire's probably going to play. I think Pickford has been great for England, but we know that he can be a bit of a liability at times for Everton. I think Reece James is a big loss. I think Chilwell's a big loss. We've got Luke Shaw probably starting left wing back, I guess. Again, he is inconsistent at best. Did I mention Maguire already or not? I can't remember. I mentioned Maguire. Yeah. Obviously Ben White could come in there, and I think that could be well. The thing that is uncertain to me is England have enough good young players to they need to show up and run that team, right? So players like Saka, players like Bellingham, they're the ones. Foden, they're the ones that if they, if Southgate says you are the core of this team, I think they'll do well.
Doesn't Arteta, but I don't.
Yeah, but I don't think Southgate will do that. I think it's going to be this is the back five. I don't know why he plays that back five, but he's not going to change from that back five. And it could work out. The defenders on their day, they're all also very capable, right? And it's tournament football, and tournament football is defense first football. It might work out, but I just think the defensive level has gone down a bit, and he's not going to get the best out of the attacking team, the attacking players.
But just a question, Aaron, and sorry. So when you say you think England will be the flop, your pick as the flop of the tournament, is that them not getting out of the group, or is that going out of the first knockout stage? Or
I think first or even quarterfinals. I don't know if that is that flop for you. I'm not sure, but
I think quarterfinals in the World Cup. I mean,
I think if they get to a quarterfinals, I don't think that it would be regarded as a flop. I don't think anyone would be
because you're probably playing France in the quarters.
Fine. Yeah, fine. If they go to France, then you probably say they've lost the better team. I think I think every game they play is tricky because they play a lot of like unknown teams, and that's what that kind of worries me a bit.
There's a great stat. I don't know. Sorry if you've seen it. It's kind of a stat. So England's group is the only group that has 4 teams that are ranked in the top 20 FIFA rankings, which I didn't know, and I haven't actually verified.
20 FIFA rankings.
Apparently, they are Wales, Iran, and USA. You can check it. I heard it on the radio the other day. I think it's Stuart Pearce that said it. Actually, yeah, I think it's Stuart Pearce. So yeah, someone can verify it. One of our five years.
I think every game you could see it going wrong, and there isn't a banker in there that we say like they're 3 points, and you know that there's not a Saudi Arabia in there.
Iran.
I think Iran are tricky. They win the Asia Cup, or am I making that up?
So I don't know that much about Iran, but what I thought was quite interesting is I think it was, is his name John McKenzie? Like I feel really bad if I've got his name wrong, but he's one of the guys who contributes for Tifo, and he did that analysis where I think what he was trying to do is he tried to take all the teams and put them into buckets in their style of play. So he put 4 buckets. I don't know if you saw it, right? No. And so one of the buckets was high was kind of possession, high pressing, basically. Yeah. And if you look at the possession-based high pressing teams, like there was about 8 teams in there, and 6 out of those 8 teams were like really good teams. They're like, the Brazils and the teams that you imagine are gonna probably compete to win it. And there were like 2 other teams who play that style, and one of them was Iran. And so I'm quite intrigued to watch them, therefore, as a team who, in theory, I guess to play, in my mind, if you want to play possession-based high pressing football, you need very high quality players. So it'll be really interesting to see, based on just that analysis, how they do. And maybe, I mean, Aaron, like you say, if I didn't know if they won the Asia Cup.
That might not be right. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting Iran and someone else confused.
I mean, we've been getting a lot of teams confused on this.
We've not been on this.
The thing with England's group is, right, England, Iran, the first game. I mean, everyone's expecting England to win that game, and if they win that game, which they should, right, it's kind of like, I was going to compare it to like Arsenal playing, I don't know, someone they should beat. Name a team, I don't know, but if England win that game, you've got 1 foot in the next round, really, if you win your first game, and it's just all about winning your first game. I think the Wales game is going to be really, really interesting. That's going to be tricky because it's Wales, basically, right? It's kind of like it's almost like a local derby. And the USA game, from what I understand, I've not watched USA at all, but I understand they've got a really, really exciting team.
Didn't Canada beat them recently?
Canada beat them. Was that in the deciding game or something like that towards the end of the qualifications? I don't know.
USA were already through or something like that, or maybe they put USA into the playoffs, didn't they? And then USA had to go and beat someone like New Zealand or something like that.
So they've got Aronson, who I now know is American, not Canadian, and they've got Pulisic. They've got Pulisic, and they've got another guy going forward who's I can't remember who it is, but they've got I think a decent kind of front 3, front 4. So I think I agree with you. It's going to be a tough group, but I don't know if England don't qualify, mate. That is.
Oh yeah, that would be huge. England
I think it's just like there's a lot of potential banana skins, and they could easily get 3 wins, right? But
should get 3.
Yeah, they should, right? But if England get second in that group,
that's a failure in itself.
That failure, yeah. And I think
I mean, if you get second and going on to get to the semis in the final, then no. But
no one cares, right?
It's pretty bad to get second in that group. There's no other big boys. There's no other.
But there's the whole peaking early thing, right? There are tournaments where, was it Spain who lost their first game and won the World Cup, and was it France who did the same thing?
So I think look, obviously I want England to do well, right? But
by the way, breaking news: Karim Benzema is out of the World Cup.
Oh, really?
No way!
Yeah, I heard there were rumors of that earlier on today, but I didn't think it was.
Oh, that's a shame.
Maybe they will get past France than England.
Do you think Alex Lacazette's got his phone on?
No, Giroud
will probably play.
Yeah, but he's in the squad. Yeah. He's in the squad. Someone will be called up. No. Giroud is in the squad.
Oh, right. Yeah, Giroud is in the squad.
Lacazette's getting operation with his vocal cords, I think.
Is he actually? I thought he was actually having an operation.
He actually is. I think.
Yeah, all right.
Maybe not right now, but No, I'm saying it's Giroud's time to shine, man. Isn't
I
he
mean,
like
Giroud's
France's all-time top scorer?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 goals away from
Yeah.
being their all-time top scorer, which is fair play to him. I'm very happy for him. He's got a, I've grown very fond of Giroud since he's left Arsenal. Actually, I just think he's like.
What about when he celebrated winning the Europa League against us, mate?
Oh yeah, no, maybe not that. But, no, but I just think he's a very like consistent striker. He's just like he's not.
You know
world
what you're
class,
gonna
but he's
get. You know what you're
consistent,
gonna get. Yeah.
And he just delivers at that level of like just above average for a while.
Well, they've got him. They've got Griezmann. They've got Mbappe could play through the middle. They've got options.
I think Griezmann will probably play like
Dembele.
Giroud and Griezmann behind him, and then Mbappe out wide. I reckon the Benzema start around.
Dembele will start surely.
Does he start for France?
I'm pretty sure he does.
Coman, is he French? Kingsley Coman?
I don't think Kingsley Coman starts though. And is Kingsley Coman French? Yeah, he is.
I don't know anymore, mate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you know what the lesson learned here? Let's stick to Arsenal, yeah.
Mate, yeah, I agree. It's a lot first and last.
Shall we go to He's Been Pants? Conscious of time.
Yeah.
He's Been Pants is who we think is who is the guy that like midway through the tournament or just before they're going to get knocked out, the commentators go like, geez, this guy, he's really been pants. It's spread.
Ooh.
So Mize has gone for Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Aaron has gone for Lukaku. I've gone for Ronaldo, and Nero has gone for Ronaldo.
So I caveat this with like when I made this prediction, I didn't realize Lukaku was actually injured and probably unlikely to play for like the first 2 or 3 games. So
I think
he well, he can't be pants if he's not playing, I guess.
Pick another one then. Who else would you say? If you could,
I was considering going Ronaldo actually, but let me think. Come back to me. Why don't you tell me why you went Kane?
I want to talk about Ronaldo. Okay. Do you want to go Kane? Do you want to do the Kane thing?
Yeah, the Kane thing is plays for Tottenham.
It's actually funny because I've got Sky Sports News on right now, right? And like immediately, just as you said his name, the footage of the Indian England fans came up, and like there's a guy with Harry Kane on his shirt. Like,
I didn't. The paid fans. Yeah.
So go on.
Harry Kane. I mean, look, he won the Golden Boot last World Cup, but I think he scored 5 goals and 3 of them were penalties. I could be wrong on that, but there was a high proportion of penalties, and I'm not sure he's going to kind of get as lucky this time around. He's coming into this tournament. Conte said he's absolutely knackered. I think pretty much like paraphrasing what he said, but I think it was close to that.
But he's a joke of a saying that, isn't he? Because he played Harry Kane in the League Cup.
Oh exactly. Like he's fine. But he's playing every game. And I kind of had this feeling similar to what Aaron was saying. Right? I think England will get out of the group, and I think they'll be okay in terms of that. But I don't think England. I think England are going to struggle quite a bit, and I don't think it's going to be as comfortable as people are expecting. People are looking at semi-final in the World Cup, final of the Euros. Oh, okay. Next step is winning the tournament, or basically doing really, really, really well. But I don't think it's going to be as straightforward. I think we've got a pretty tough group, and I think as a result, Kane might suffer or might struggle. And that's pretty much why I've gone for him. I think you probably still get a couple of goals, but he's favourite to win the Golden Boot, from my understanding. I think he's favourite to win the Golden Boot ahead of like some ridiculous players. He's favourite ahead of like Messi. Well, we can check it, but and look, he's still
probably like you say, it's partly because of the role he plays in the team, isn't it? For England,
and he takes penalties. But that's assuming that England in the last World Cup played. Was it Trinidad? No, who did they play? Was it Trinidad and Tobago? They played someone. They smashed them. No. They played a team. They won like 6-0, and Kane got a couple of goals. Lingard scored a really good goal. That I'm not sure that's going to happen this time around. So yeah, I've gone for Kane because I think expectation is for England to do well. Kane has to score a lot of goals, and I'm not sure he will. So I've gone for Kane.
Fine. I went for Ronaldo partly because of just all the stuff that's going on at the moment, right? So again, He's Been Pants thing. I think it's a relative thing versus expectations, and he'll be in the limelight after all his interview about, thinking Man United is a car crash and how he needs to get out and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of pressure on him. Like now, I think he's put a lot of pressure on his back to show that he is still a top class player, because Man United are probably about to rip up his contract, right? So he's this World Cup is him playing in some ways, I think, for his next move. If he has a rubbish tournament, he's still Ronaldo. He'll still have like interest, of course. But I think if he smashes this tournament, then that could that I think that'll open up a lot of options for him. But I don't think that. I'm not sure that it'll happen. He's also someone that he strikes me as someone who, when the rest of the team aren't playing for him at the moment, I think he'll struggle with that. And I'm not sure Portugal. I just don't get this vibe from Portugal that they're all behind him.
Yeah,
because he made this comment anyway, right? In the interview where he sort of said that if the Portuguese media are also like kind of part of the media who have always been putting pressure on him, etc. I don't think that there's that much love for him in Portugal at the moment for one reason or another. And I think the team, given there's a couple of Man United players there as well, I think it's a little bit weird. There's been that talk for a while about Fernandes versus Ronaldo in terms of, does Ronaldo get the best out of Fernandes and vice versa, for Portugal and for Man United. I don't know if Fernandes is looking at it now going, maybe I need to make Portugal my team now. Maybe it's my time. I need to be the leader in this team. And following this interview, perhaps those dynamics, I don't know. So for that reason, I think Portugal may struggle overall anyway. A struggle in the sense, I don't think they're going to, they're going to win it. I don't think they'll be in the semis. But I don't know if Ronaldo is going to have a very good tournament.
I do think actually, if Portugal drop Ronaldo, I don't think they will, because I think their biggest problem is they're kind of stuck with him and they don't want to drop him.
Yeah.
If they did drop him, I reckon they could be a bit of a surprise package.
They've got Rafael Leao as well, haven't they? AC Milan guy.
Joao Felix.
Felix. Yeah.
But none of those are number 9s, are they?
I think Rafael Leao isn't he? Is he not?
I thought Leao is a wide player.
Oh, is he? Okay.
I'm pretty sure Leao is a wide player. I'm pretty sure. I may have got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's predominantly a wide man.
Okay. But it's this thing, right? You feel I kind of agree with what you said, Raj. You do feel like teams are now, whether it's club or country, have to accommodate Ronaldo as opposed to wanting to pick him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and obviously it's almost like he's bigger than Portugal. I know that sounds a bit weird, but he's almost like
do you know what I mean? And so it's it's just this conundrum, and obviously, and again, it's kind of similar. It's similar-ish to Messi, right? It has to be surely his last tournament. Yeah.
World Cup. Definitely his last World Cup, right? I don't know. Who knows, right? The guy's a machine, but maybe he'll make the next Euros, but I don't know. But last World Cup, he will, and he's obviously got a shitload to not prove. He hasn't got anything to prove, but he's obviously going to want to make a point. Yeah. Just because it's him and everything that's happened over the last few months. So, on that basis, I'm not saying he'll necessarily have an amazing tournament, but he might just want to just turn up, really, just turn up and kind of almost show everyone, like you say, he's playing for his next move. Is he even playing for his next move though? Because if you're signing Ronaldo, you know what you're getting, right? It's not like you don't know.
I think he's going to try. He has this belief that he is still a Champions League level player, right? And if he can,
sorry, go on.
I guess it's a broad spectrum, but if he does well, and he could do well, because international football is a level below the top of the Premier League, right? The international football standard is different, where you just need to turn up in big moments, and Ronaldo can do that. But if he doesn't give you anything else. Yeah. So
fair enough.
He could easily win the Golden Boot, but
if he has a good World Cup, I can see someone like Chelsea going in for him. Because I think that a lot of it, right, is still. I know what you guys mean in terms of you know what you're going to get to some extent with Ronaldo and whatever, but I think the fans do play quite a big part nowadays, and maybe they always have. You could argue, but I think right now, fans have I think seeing a lot of teams do well now who aren't necessarily kind of orientated around kind of big named players. They are kind of look what's happening in the Premier League with Arsenal, for example. And I think that there's a lot of big teams who would be hesitant about signing Ronaldo in terms of fans who would be hesitant of bringing in Ronaldo at his age, etc., and what that might mean to the dressing room. So I think, though, that there are a lot of owners who would still really like him for various reasons. And I think, therefore, if he has a big tournament, I think a lot of owners would be like, oh, the fans would be really up for this as well. And that might kind of help push them, personally.
Yeah, I think you're right. If he plays, I think Portugal will struggle and he will struggle. So, yeah, I think I'd probably agree that Ronaldo would be one of them who could flop. But, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, let's say, like, if I don't think Portugal would be too unhappy if he like took a knock in the first game and he was out for like 3 games.
He solves that problem. Fair enough.
What would be really interesting is, let's say he gets injured and then Portugal make the final.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow.
Then do you play Ronaldo in the final?
It was like what happened in the Euros when they won. Didn't he get injured?
He got injured in the final.
In the game.
But
let's just say like they get to the final because he got injured. He comes back. He'll do everything to be fit.
Yeah, he would.
For World Cup final. And I think he would probably pay he'd probably just bribe the manager with like all his money. Just be like, just start me.
This is the thing. Portugal have got some
good players.
Really good players, man. They're really good players.
Again, like Bernardo Silva,
Cancelo, Pepe
Ruben Diaz,
which is mad. Yeah. Neves from
Is it Courtois still in goal for them? Is it? No.
Courtois is Belgium.
Sorry. Yeah.
Guys. I was literally going to joke. I was like, someone say some random country. And I didn't even have to joke.
Who's their goalkeeper?
It's the Wolves goalkeeper, isn't it? Well, they've got a couple. They've got the ex-Wolves keeper, Patricio.
Okay.
The current Wolves keeper.
Shall we go to our last question? Because we are destroying people's time here. Coming up with fake nationalities and shit. Okay. The last question. Baller alert. So this was really intended to be breakthrough player.
Okay. Ooh.
So
Saliba. Okay. Interesting.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one, actually. Yeah. All right. Read it out.
I'm reading it out. I'm going to read it out. So, Mize, when he requested, Mize and Aaron both did the same thing. They both gave a name of a player and said, if that's effectively too mainstream, then let's go X. So, what Mize said was, Mize went for Saka, but gave Camavinga as an alternative. Aaron went for Musiala and went for Gavi as an alternative. I went for William Saliba. And Nero went for Gabriel Martinelli. The interesting thing I find about both your guys' picks, right, is Aaron's alternative to Musiala is Gavi, who that's not really like an out there thing. Like, he just won the Golden Boy Award, right? So he is okay. So in theory,
he doesn't. Yeah, fine. I get, but then I was just like, I wasn't even sure if Gavi starts for. I don't think does he start for Spain?
I don't know.
So I was just like, I think Musiala probably is a bit more established.
I don't know if Musiala starts for Germany, does he?
I think he is predicted to start. I think
he's
predicted to start.
Because they haven't got a striker, right? Because Werner got injured.
But I think they think Havertz is going to play up front. I think Havertz is supposed
but
to
isn't it Gnabry, Muller, Sane behind?
I don't know if Muller will start.
Oh, okay.
So I think Musiala will play in the hole.
I think it'll be one. I think Muller will start. It'll probably be. Also, how old is Thomas Muller? How is he still playing World Cups?
Yeah, I know.
Well, I feel like he's been in every World Cup that I can remember.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, he's insane. Why don't you, mate? You talk to us about Musiala and let go for that. You don't necessarily need to talk about Gavi. Go for Musiala.
I think he's established himself in the Bayern team, the Germany team, and he gets he's just come through, and he's a player that. Is a type of player that will make highlights reels. Whereas I think, although I think Saliba is an excellent shout actually, because Saliba is the type of defender who will actually make highlight reel. But I was like, who will start consistently, and who's in a team that will like do well, and then who is able to like just be a bit hipster and kind of just like who is not super well known in England, where I think they could do well. The other player I actually do think will do really well is Bellingham, but again, he's just a bit more established and a bit more mainstream, and he could be like in an international level, like even Saka, like at an international level, he probably is a bit more breakout because maybe not everyone, maybe Brazilian journalists or German journalists probably don't know as much about Saka or Bellingham. But I think Musiala is probably like, if you ask a German fan, it's going to be like, how do you not know who this guy is? Like, he's great. And I think it's that he's that kind of level where I think he's skillful, he'll get load of assists, and he'll just kind of run a few games.
Yeah. Musiala also went to primary school in my town here. Yeah. And he went to secondary school at Whitgift in South London. But is German, I think, originally, and I think he's half German, I think, originally, and then they moved to Germany or whatever. But anyway, sorry, segue.
You sound upset.
Like Saka's an interesting shout, isn't he? Because he's like
Saka. I've not heard of him.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
guys, we've got this guy.
Can
now
you say
breakthrough?
Right? Can you say breakthrough? Which is arguably the most.
That's why there's a slash there with Camavinga, but even Camavinga, you can't really. It's kind of what Aaron was saying, right? I think Saka is on a Premier League level is established. He's well known. He's rated, but probably on an international level, not quite yet. And I think if Southgate, like you were saying, Aaron, and he's a nailed-on starter. I don't think he is a nailed-on starter because he likes Sterling, he likes Kane, and he likes Foden, and he might go with that as a front three.
Oh, mate, if he doesn't start Saka, then he should just.
Southgate he should
retire.
He should just jump from a very high building. No, that's a bit harsh. But it's if you don't start Saka, if you don't start the guy who's kind of in form for the team at the top of the league at the moment, then I'm not sure really what you can say about that.
Yeah.
But maybe he doesn't. But look, I think if Saka kind of gets enough, well, not even just gets enough minutes. I think if Saka plays majority of the tournament, I think he could really, really kind of shine. We all like. I don't need to kind of say what. I don't need to say anything about Saka in terms of his qualities, right? We all know between us. I just think it just feels like he's got this mentality where nothing phases him. Literally nothing phases this guy.
Yeah.
21 years old. He takes everything in his stride. He's just got that kind of mental resilience, mental kind of strength where, World Cup, cool. I'm just gonna do what I do. Basically, I'm gonna do what I do week in, week out. And if he starts games, and if Southgate puts his trust in him, doesn't play him wing back and plays him in his right wing position that he should play, then I feel like he could really just shine in this tournament. The only reason I put Camavinga in as well is because I thought, because we're Arsenal, does Saka count as an option? If he doesn't, I put Camavinga in there because
I think it's fair.
Yeah, because obviously, look, France's injury problems. They haven't got a central midfield. Camavinga's likely to start alongside Tchouameni. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
And I've not seen that much of Camavinga, being in all honesty, but he seemed to come on in the Champions League games at the back end, like the quarterfinals, the semi-finals against City and Chelsea, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he came on, and it was like he started the game. Like he came on, and he just adapted to this pace of the game. Both those games were quite crazy because they're both second legs at the Bernabeu. I think, I could be wrong, and it felt like Madrid needed a goal. There's something crazy going on where it was a bit of a frantic end to the game, but he just came on, and you could just see the quality. You could see why they probably spent so much money on him, and it looks like he's going to be starting for France, and he's going to be kind of like the fulcrum in central midfield. And I guess, as a result of that, with all of the other good players that are around him, I think he could really, really shine as well this tournament. So Yeah, they're the two players I've gone for, but there's so many. There's quite literally like Musiala was on my list, and I literally was messaging Raz Musiala delete, Musiala delete. Then I went for Saga. So there's so many good players. I'm really interested to see why you picked Saliba, because in my eyes, Saliba doesn't play any minutes, but I've heard that they might go 3 at the back. That could be nonsense as well. I don't know.
Who do you think starts for France at centre back? Who do you think?
Well, Kimpembe got injured, right?
Yeah, he got injured.
Is Varane fit?
Varane's injured as well. Is he fit?
He's been on and off injured, but yeah, I think he is fit enough to be in the squad.
I actually don't know, mate.
I think Saliba should start. I think he's definitely good enough to. I don't know if he will. Has he played many games for the senior team?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think that over the last season he's been in every squad. He's been a regular in the squad, and I think he has got minutes. I think he'll.
So can I read out the defenders?
Yeah,
we just got it. I think this is the current right. So Pavard, okay, not centre back. Koundé,
yeah,
Varane,
yeah.
Both the Hernandezes, Theo and Lucas. I don't know who this guy is. Badiashile from Monaco. Ferland Mendy, so left back, I think. Upamecano, Konate.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition there, isn't it?
But in terms of centre back, it's a fair shout because, and then Saliba as well. So I don't know. I actually don't know who start. I actually don't know. Varane, I would assume if he's fit, he starts.
Konate, I reckon. But I think he's only been playing. He's only been in and around the France squad since he moved to Liverpool, right?
That's a really interesting shout, actually. That's because look, if Saliba starts, 100%, I would probably change mine to Saliba as well. If I didn't think he would start,
I reckon he'll start. I don't know if they play a back 5. I don't know what that does. They probably drop.
Yeah.
They might even drop one of those central midfielders into defense or something like that. But have France ever played a back 5? I didn't realize they did.
No, I don't know. So let's assume for a second he'll start. I thought he would, and let's assume that he would. And I think that I still don't think that everyone outside of even Arsenal fans, I think, appreciate how good he is, and that's just because we've been watching him for 90 minutes every week. And I think in the Premier League, because we're doing so well, generally outside of Arsenal fans in the Premier League, people are watching him and acknowledging that he's done really well. I think he's been in a lot of people's team of the season so far. But the World Cup really does put people on a different stage. And I think that he's a sort of guy like that. I think he wouldn't be fazed by it at all. I don't think the World Cup itself would get to him. And I think it could be the tournament where, I also wanted to go for a defender in my either he's been pants or ball or a question. I wanted to go for a defender or goalkeeper just to be a little bit different in that way. But I do think that it might be the tournament where he announces himself, or maybe announce himself. Yeah, maybe announce himself to a more kind of global stage. I don't necessarily think that's not going to be a good thing for us.
Arsenal, yeah.
I don't think. Yeah.
I think that's a great shout. I think
it is a great shout.
Even if he doesn't start, I think with France's injury issues, you could see them conceding goals and maybe rotating their defenders around a bit. I think he could do well. I mean, if he does start, you're right. I think he'll do very, very well.
Yeah, and Nero's gone for Martinelli, and it's an interesting shout, isn't it? Because I think most people probably don't think he's going to see very many minutes. I don't know if you saw there was this footage that was sort of released of their training, and he looked like elite. He looked brilliant. Is that what you're going to say?
Apparently, apparently he's really impressed in the camp. Apparently he's really impressed in training. Just from what I've read and what I've heard, but Martinelli's quite interesting. That is an interesting shout as well, because they obviously have so many options in those attacking positions, but Martinelli is a kind of player that 20 minutes to go, you bring Martinelli on, he's just incessant, right? He's just non-stop, and he's exactly what he's basically exactly what you want when you've got a tied defense in the knockout stages. You bring Martinelli on with 10, 15, 20 minutes to go. He's just going to go at that at that right back, like non-stop, assuming that's where he comes on. So he's kind of like the perfect player for that kind of situation. So it's not a bad shout, to be honest, because if Brazil do go quite far in the tournament, he might actually get some decent minutes. But yeah, it all comes down to does the manager have faith in him, like Arteta has faith in him? So maybe not, but yeah.
It will be interesting. Man,
Yeah,
we'll be
I
talking
think-
1.5 hours.
What
Oh,
I
go
can
on.
see happening quickly is like,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
this actually isn't that good a point, but now you put a time pressure on it. But, it's not worth extending the episode by another 30 seconds. But I can see a situation where Brazil, let's say they win their first 2 games and they're already through, they might play Martinelli in the 3rd game. And then he might just play so well because he's going to be so hungry that he almost forces himself into, okay, he's not going to start, but he could force himself to be that first sub that comes on, like you say, Miles, and then he just needs to take his chance if he gets it.
Yeah, maybe. I was just going to ask you guys, just before we end, I guess we're coming to an end, but England, your predictions on what happens to England and where I say we, but where England, how they do in this tournament.
I personally don't think that. I think they'll go out. I think they'll get through the group, but I think they'll go out. I think they'll go out in the first knockout, or maybe they'll get through that and get out the next one. I actually think that. I think the weather is an issue. It looked like this isn't good weather for English players, man. Like, we're not used to this shit. Like,
Is that really a thing?
I think so. I genuinely think so. Because
all the stadiums are air conditioned, apparently.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's like an air
effective that
humidity thing that, like, I think
Okay.
that. I think the fact that the buzz in the UK hasn't been that high, like, it's not like, and like, when you've got mid-season and all that kind of stuff, and you've got teams like Brazil and Argentina, like we've said, who this always means so much, so agnostic of what any other crap that's going on, like, this is a huge deal. The man, like, in England, the whole like, for example, like, the LGBT stuff is huge here, and it's been huge in the press about kind of Qatar's relationship with LGBT rights, etc. Brazil don't care. Brazil have got like a fairly right-wing government in place anyway. Like, they don't care about this stuff. This is not what's in the press. It's not like, it's all still probably been about football there. So they've just been. So I think it's. I just think I feel like the England players are like, I feel like this is a bit of an inconvenience, and I know it's the World Cup, it's England, but I think I can't see us doing very well. What about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I think where we're going to predict, I think they could go out to Senegal in the round of 16.
So question then, like, just to wrap it up in that way. So Miles, you thought England were going to be a flop, right?
I said England.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, where do you think England are going to be?
Me?
How do you Miles? How do you think they will do?
I think if they don't get out of the group, that's a shocking. That's terrible. But I think if they top the group, they've got. I don't think they should have any problems against whoever finishes second in from Group A. So I think as a minimum quarterfinal, and I think it's France in the quarterfinal. I could be wrong, but mate, we've got like. I don't know. I just think England actually on paper have actually got a very, very good team. Yes, the defense is a bit dodgy, but you've got Rice and Bellingham, you've got Kane, Saka, Sterling, Foden, Grealish, all sorts of options.
Right.
They're all such good players. They actually are good, and they're playing in the best league in the world, right? So, they minimum quarterfinals for me. Fine. And then if you're coming up against a big team, a big country, who knows what happens. And if it's France and France play as well as they can, then France probably, they've got very good players, so they might beat us, but they should beat us probably. But yeah, quarterfinals I think is a minimum.
I do stand corrected, like Nick Mack in his comments about humidity. That's right, I used the wrong word. It's not humidity. Like, it's that kind of oven heat. when you get out of the
Yeah.
plane in the Middle East and it's just like you come out of an oven.
Yeah.
It's that kind of heat, not humid.
We just shout out Nick Nack because he's been interacting, commenting the whole episode. I know Raj, you haven't seen it because you've been sharing your screen, but no, thank you, Nick Nack, for the comments and the questions and everything. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that. So, like my final point was about therefore, based on what we all think are going to happen to England, do we think that Gareth Southgate will be sacked after the World Cup?
No,
I think
I
he'll
don't think
leave.
He might
he'll
leave.
leave.
I don't think he'll be sacked.
I think it's time. I think even if Gareth Southgate wins, or say England get to the final, I think he'll leave.
It's time for Arsenal. It's time for Arsenal.
Yeah, it's time for Arsenal.
Right, should we wrap up this 1 hour 35-minute episode?
Yes.
I mean, it was fun. I mean, like, hey, I'm a little bit more up for the World Cup now, to be honest. After chatting, what time do we kick off tomorrow? What time does it kick off tomorrow?
4.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's like the greatest. So the pre-match, whatever, or pre-tournament. What was it called? Opening ceremony. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's like the best fireworks show you've ever seen in your entire life. So tune in for that. I caught up.
Right, let's do it. Oh, well done, good man. Right, guys, appreciate it. Aaron, you be on your world tour.
I will. I'll be watching most of the World Cup in India,
Madison Square Garden.
So if any of our subscribers are in India and know any good places to watch the World Cup, let me know.
Madras Square Gardens.
Mate, India's a big place. You can't just say India.
Anyway, I'm going literally all around India. So, literally, there's a chance I will be coming to your city. So, let me know. No, honestly, if there are any Indian fans who want to meet up for a drink or something, I'm around.
What you should do is you should find a location and just publish that location. And see if anyone shows up. Well, sad if no one turns up.
I mean, the chances are highly likely no one shows up.
It'll be all the females. All the females.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Good chat. And I will talk to you guys soon. Everyone, thank you for joining this live stream. Thank you for if you were listening live, really, really appreciate you listening live. Nick Nack, you've been our main man this show, so appreciate that. And everyone take care, enjoy the World Cup, and have a nice Christmas. We will probably record before Christmas. So
Arsenal are still top of the league.
Arsenal still top of the league. 5 points top. Get in. All right, boys. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.